up, movie lovers? I'm Mike, and this is Gotta Love Them Movies. You guys, welcome back to Gotta Love Them Movies, your place to talk about the stuff that you love. I'm your host, Mr. Mike Brown. I'm here all the time, and today my co-host is, come here. Oh, she's sitting right next to me. She's purring up a storm. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Reverend Minerva Radcliffe. Minerva, say hi. You're live on the internet right now. Minerva Cat don't care. But she's a cutie. You guys, this has been, I guess I could say, an adventurous week for me. Things have been good. Things have been lovely. Things have been great. I tested wedding cake yesterday. It wasn't very good. We're going to move on to another vendor. But I'm sampling wedding cakes right now, you guys. I'm in the process. Yesterday I did a whole Facebook live stream as I rented a Revel moped and just drove around New York and kind of gave like facts about New York and just talking about my life and whatever. And the big journey of yesterday is I've decided I'm going to make my own groom's cake. No details about it yet. It's going to come as a surprise, but I've got some pretty cool ideas and I'm pretty jazzed about it. So, wedding cakes! Isn't that fun? What else? Sorry, somebody just messaged me about Camp Improv Utopia. This is something completely different. I literally just got the text just now. If anyone is interested in doing a little bit of improv, here, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I had no plans on talking about this, but Camp Improv Utopia is if anyone's interested in doing a little bit of improvisation, here, let me pull this up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. If anybody is interested, why is this not showing? Oh, it was showing earlier. Hold on. I'm so sorry, you guys. Bear with me. Oh, man. See, this is what happens. Here we go, you guys. All right. Okay, so if anyone is interested in taking improv classes, or if improv is something that you've always wanted to try, but you didn't know exactly how to get into it, well, a really good friend of mine, Nick Armstrong, out in California, oh, good, look at that, registration is now open. Perfect. A friend of mine just messaged me to say that registration is now open. You guys, this is a movie channel. We talk about movies. But if anybody's interested in taking a class, dipping their toe in the proverbial improv pool. I've been an improviser for about 13 years. I teach classes. I travel around the world and I do shows. Like, this is something that's been a part of my life for a very long time now. And Camp Improv Utopia is summer camp with improv workshops kind of built into the summer camp. It's fun, it's high energy, it's high octane. So because of the COVID-19 pandemic, camp, like all improv, everything, shows, classes, rehearsals, even summer camps like this have all been put on the kibosh. So now I literally just received a text message from a friend of mine saying registration is now open, sign up. It's all good to go. So I'm right in the middle of a show, so I'm going to have to sign up for this later, you guys. But if anybody else is interested, please head over to, I cannot promote this. And like this is, like I'm saying, this is not a paid promotion at all. I'm not getting paid to say this. This is purely out of the love of my own heart. I love camp. It's fun. We all shout camp to each other whenever we see each other. I told you guys that I was working as a casting producer on this project, and I had the opportunity to cast a friend of mine from camp in this production, and so we saw each other on set, and we go camp. It's inside jokes, inside references. You'll understand when you go. It's absolutely incredible. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Camp is awesome. And now somebody from Hawaii is calling me. So many things happening, so many things, you guys. But here's the thing. If you haven't done so already, please click that subscribe button. Doing so helps us to get more subscribers, obviously, and more watched content on the channel. And with the more watched content the channel gets, I hopefully get to make this show my full-time job, because I love talking about movies and I love chatting with you guys on the interwebs. Okay. If anybody has a comment or a question or anything that you want to talk about on the show, you want to make it like a main topic, send me an email at gottalovethemmovies@gmail.com. And as long as it's family friendly, I can make your comment or question a main topic here on the show. And, yeah. Let's jump into it. Let's jump into it, you guys. Our first bit of news today, it's official. It's official. Amazon has purchased MGM Studios for $8.45 billion. Now, is this the biggest, the largest, most expensive studio acquisition in history? No, not by a long shot. I believe that title, correct me if I'm wrong, Internet, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that title goes to Disney purchasing 20th Century Fox for what is it? I think it was $74 billion, like 73 point something or $74 billion. That was a lot. That was a lot. And now Amazon Studios has just purchased MGM Studios, which MGM has been a mainstay staple in Hollywood for close to 100 years? Like a long, long time. Louis B. Mayer, who was essentially kind of the brainchild behind MGM Studios. He was the one that like kind of started all. He was not the nicest of humans. He was a businessman, but you know, he did a pretty good job at running the studio and getting some big credibility behind his name. And you know, that name has endured. Now it begs the question, you know, obviously this article in Variety is talking about like, hey, what's going to happen to the James Bond franchise? And I think that's what's on a lot of people's minds. But let's jump into this article really quick from Variety. They say, you know, James Bond has a new home. MGM just announced this morning, you guys, MGM just announced, and I think it was at like 5 o'clock in the morning, East Coast time. That's early. Anyway, they just announced this morning a definitive merger agreement between Amazon and MGM Studios for $8.45 billion. Yeah, so there you go. MGM was founded in 1924, so it's 97 years old. 97 years old this thing has been around. Complements Amazon Studios, which is primarily focused on producing TV programming. The company said Amazon will help preserve MGM's heritage, yada, yada, yada. For Amazon snapping up MGM, which has more than 4,000 movies and 17,000 television shows in its catalog, is a way to supercharge its Prime Video service with a slew of well-known entertainment titles. In addition, Amazon is anticipating being able to mine MGM's properties like the Pink Panther, Rocky, and of course, 007. You know, if you jump down here into the bottom part of the article, they say like a lot of the titles that Amazon just acquired, you know, big name movies like 12 Angry Men, Basic Instinct, Creed, Rocky, Legally Blonde, Moonstruck, Poltergeist, Raging Bull, RoboCop, Silence of the Lambs, Stargate, Thelma and Louise, Tomb Raider, Magnificent Seven, Pink Panther, Thomas Crown Affair, James Bond, Fargo, Handmaid's Tale, Vikings. This is a ton of content, and as we know, as we're getting hot and heavy into the streaming wars, I feel like we've left the Bronze Age of the streaming wars and now we're in the Silver Age. I feel like we're in the Silver Age right now of the streaming wars. We're in the meat and potatoes now. We are in the meat and potatoes where studios are joining forces. We see this, like we almost saw this in the midst of the pandemic with a lot of movie theater chains kind of shutting down and possibly being absorbed. I know, do you remember like when AMC Theaters shut its doors because they spent, I think it was like $5 billion revamping their theaters. They implemented AMC A-List. They had a lot of stuff on their to-do list, and it was fine. Like, they put themselves in debt. But then the pandemic hit. Something happened that nobody could have ever anticipated. And now they were scrambling to try and get their heads above water, and they just couldn't do it. They just couldn't tread water. So they needed, thankfully there were a few different government bailouts. They received financial help from other institutions. Of course, like, they're going to have to, end up paying off those debts and all that stuff. But you guys, we're in the middle of this whole thing where, like, mega companies, mega corporations are joining forces and acquiring other forces. I'm not gonna touch on my personal life. It has nothing to do here. But there are similarities. All of this is to say is, what is the future of MGM, or rather, like, the MGM properties? What is the future of all this stuff going to look like? I think this is an interesting thing. If you look at the type of content that Amazon Studios has been producing, I just watched the new Tom Clancy. Was it Without Remorse? I think that's what it is. I just saw Without Remorse. It was okay. But on the whole, Amazon Studios has been putting out some pretty good content overall. Hits and misses. Everyone has hits and misses, but overall they've been putting out some pretty excellent content. Now, then again, it's all been streaming content. Very little of their content has gone to the movie theaters. But now with the acquisition of MGM Studios, Amazon is, I'm not going to say that they're being forced or that they're going to be forced to put new titles. So, like, the James Bond franchise. James Bond is mega moneymaker. Of course they're going to want to put that, like, upcoming films in the theaters, because it's going to make them money. It's going to make them money, as opposed to just releasing it on Amazon Prime. But I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon pulls an HBO Max, where, hey, the new James Bond movie coming out, it's coming out in theaters, and watch it next month on Amazon Prime. Like, I can very easily see something like that happening. I feel like the Paramount Accords are going to play less of a role moving forward. Paramount Accords, if you're not familiar, essentially just a set of rules and guidelines as laid out by both the government and the theater companies to say, like, hey, studios, you can't release your movie on home video until it's been in theaters for X amount of days. It's been out of theaters for X amount of days. Like, we need time. We need to make money. We need to make you money, and we need to make money ourselves. So, and there's so much more to it. It's such a complicated thing. But now in the streaming world, in the streaming era, a lot of this stuff matters a little less. Anyway, guys, I want to hear what your thoughts are about all of this stuff. It's official today. Amazon just purchased MGM Studios for $8.45 billion. Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is, excuse me, a little too much bubbly, good thing or bad thing? I want to hear your thoughts. Jump on down to the comment section below. And where do you see the future of this going? How do you think James Bond franchise is going to play out? How do you think the Pink Panther franchise is going to play out in future installments at Amazon Studios? Let me know down in the comment section below. Okay, guys. If I was a prepared individual, I would have been able to show you an email. Hold on, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I should have had this prepared. I didn't. I will read it for you on the air. We have an email question from the Nerd Zone. Nerd Zone, longtime watcher of the show. Nerd Zone, thanks so much for being here, and thanks for giving us things to speak and to talk about. Nerd Zone says, news everyone will love. The trailer is out for the Friends reunion. The trailer for the Friends reunion is out. This is something people have wanted for years. The crew is back together, baby. Woo-wee! And yeah, in case you've been hiding under a rock, The Friends reunion is happening. Not only is it happening, we've known that it's been happening, or it was going to happen imminently for a while. We've known, like, it's kind of been happening for a while. The COVID-19 pandemic kind of pushed it back a little bit, but hey, it's official. The Friends reunion is happening. And of course, NerdZone sent me this email last week, the day, I think I was doing this show last week when the trailer dropped, and I didn't know about it. I didn't have a chance to talk about it on last week's show. But it's interesting to me that the Friends reunion is happening tomorrow on HBO Max. It's happening tomorrow. Which means, why wasn't there a little bit more build up for it? I mean, I understand, like, hey, the week before, let's kind of announce it and put out the poster, and they put out 2 trailers. There was an announcement trailer, and then there was this official teaser, this official trailer, where you get more of a behind the scenes. Why am I talking in words that I don't know what I'm talking about, right? You get to actually see what the reunion special is like. And if for anyone who saw the Will Smith Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion, also on HBO Max, it's very similar. It's very, very similar to this. But yeah, it's the whole cast getting back together, kind of have a huge retrospective, and of course, there's going to be a ton of people in it. Let's run down real quick, shall we? Who are all these guest stars jumping in? They're gonna have guest stars David Beckham, Justin Bieber, BTS, James Corden, Cindy Crawford, Cara Delevingne, Lady Gaga, Elliot Gould, Larry Hankin, Kit Harington, Mindy Kaling, Thomas Lennon, Christina Pickles, Tom Selleck, James Michael Tyler, Maggie Wheeler, Reese Witherspoon, and Malal Yousafzai. Man, I said this earlier. Yousafzai. I'm going with Yousafzai. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of people on this list that I look at and I'm like, why? Like, cool, Lady Gaga is going to be on it, but why? Cool, David Beckham, but also, like, why? You know? I'm sure it'll be fine. But if let's jump over to this article really quick from Deadline. Deadline has some interesting things to say about it. The Friends reunion review is much hype thriller-packed HBO special that is for the hardcore fans only. Now, what are they, like, what exactly do they mean by this? Well, here, right in the first paragraph, here's the skinny. If you are one of the millions of Friends fans out there, then the Friends reunion special debuting tomorrow is exactly the fix that you've been craving since the NBC sitcom went off the air in 2004. However, if you don't have a standing order at Central Perk, which, if you don't know what Central Perk is, why are you even watching this video? If you don't have a standing order at Central Perk, you'll probably want to skip the much hyped, almost 2-hour-long shindig that is way more filler than killer, to put it kindly. So, I mean, this article from Deadline, I mean, they come down a little harsh in my opinion on it. Here's the thing. I've never watched Friends from start to finish. I'm not the biggest, most hardcore Friends fan. I appreciate it for what it is. To me, it's a bit of a time capsule. It's a time in a bottle. If I want to go back and watch some nostalgic television, I'll put on Frasier. I will put on News Radio. I will put on Seinfeld. I don't necessarily go to Friends as like my go-to, like, hey, I need some hardcore 90s nostalgia. Let's put on Friends. I don't do that. But I have watched a handful of episodes, quite a few. Not all of them. I'm not even going to say the vast majority. I've seen a bunch, and I like it. It's fine. But here's the thing. As this article from Deadline points out, it's basically just for the hardcore fans only. I am not a hardcore fan. I think it's fair to say I am not the demographic that maybe this special was created for. However, I love this kind of stuff. I love these retrospectives where people get together. And Friends was, yes, it was of its time. It was a product of its time. But it was also such a cultural phenomenon that permeated so many different aspects of, culture and like how we lived and phraseologies, like this whole thing. I never watched the episode that this is from, but I know the reference. I understand what that means, right? I understand what that means. So for me to watch something like this, I find it so fascinating. I mean, maybe it's because, there's a filmmaker in me. Maybe because I'm an actor, I'm a comedian, I'm in the arts, I'm in the entertainment industry. I love this stuff. Maybe that's why I'm interested in it. To be fair, to be totally fair, maybe that's why I'm so interested in it. But I do think that article from Deadline may be a little on the harsh side, because I do think that there are other people out there, maybe more of a casual fan, that would be very much interested in just being like, oh, let's hear what the cast has to say. Yes, let's see all these special guests. And, that's why they have this long list of people here that had nothing to do with the show. Elliot Gould, I believe, was on the show. But okay, James Corden, okay, he's gonna host it. Cindy Crawford, I don't know if she was on the show. She was certainly the supermodel at the time when this show was popular. But David Beckham, okay, why is Justin Bieber showing up? Why is Justin Bieber showing up? Tom Selleck, why is because he's an older actor? I mean, when I think Tom Selleck, I think there's a certain generation that says, hey, he's the guy from Blue Bloods. But when I think of Tom Selleck, I think of Magnum P.I. So, I don't know. But then again, Elliot Gould was on the show, but I also think of Elliot Gould from the original MASH movie. So I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, guys, the Friends reunion comes out tomorrow on HBO Max. If you don't have HBO Max, I believe it is coming out on a various array of other platforms. But are you interested in seeing it? Are you going to watch it? I will most definitely be seeing. I can't watch it tomorrow because I have to go off on my flight attendant job tomorrow. But I will be, who knows? Maybe I will see it tomorrow. I'll just sit in my hotel room and watch it on my phone. Who knows? But I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts about the Friends reunion? Do you think this is a good idea? Would you have liked to have seen less of a retrospective and more of a new episode? Maybe like a 2-hour episode of them just coming back together, like a scripted episode of Friends. Or are you totally fine with this retrospective? I want to hear what your thoughts are. Do you think this is a good idea, bad idea? Blah, 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 blah. What are your thoughts? Jump on down to the comment section below. All right, you guys. Another trailer dropped the other day. Probably, it's honestly, it's probably one of those trailers that was so anticipated because we don't know what this movie is going to be like. It's the Eternals. And why is this? Oh, I hate it when these pop down. No! What are you doing? Get out of here, Hollywood Reporter. You're messing up my broadcast. All right, there we go. Nobody knows what the Eternals movie is going to look like. I mean, like, having seen Nomadland, I think it's fair to say we all kind of know what it's going to look and feel like. But, like, what's this movie going to be? What's the story? How, like, we know it spans thousands of years. But, my goodness, like, what is this movie? How does this movie work? What's the story? Who are the Eternals? All of these essential questions that we need to ask ourselves. And we got just a little bit, just a little hint. This is a teaser trailer. Teaser trailers essentially give you kind of the feel of the movie is going to be. Teaser trailers never let us know what the movie is about. Very rarely do they let us know what the movie is about. They give us just the briefest glimpse. And pretty much the only plot or story that we get from that we can glean from this trailer is for thousands of years the Eternals have existed. They've been around. They've been protectors. They've created and helped other civilizations and ways of life, and they have kept out of everyone's business. They've just sat back and observed. But now is the time for them to step in and get involved. And of course, it has to be after the events. Sorry, let me clarify. I'm gonna say it's after the events of Endgame. Well, yeah, duh, Mike. I think it's fair to say that very few people know who the Eternals are. Of course, there's going to be people out there who are hardcore comics fans, people who read the original Eternals back from Jack Kirby, back from the Jack Kirby era, who created the Eternals, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Internet. I know you will. But yeah, like there are those hardcore fans that know everything there is to know about the Eternals. The Eternals is not a mainstream theme. The Eternals is not the Avengers. The Eternals is not the X-Men. The Eternals is not Spider-Man. The Eternals is one of those properties that is, do you remember when Guardians of the Galaxy came out and everybody was like, that is so out there, but I'm so glad that they're doing it. And I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is now kind of mainstream, right? Maybe not as mainstream as the Avengers, but, I don't know, maybe it is. Who knows? The Eternals, very few people know anything about. Now, when the movie comes out, I'm sure everybody's going to pop up and say, oh, I know everything there is to know about the Eternals. But this movie looks, to me, I don't know what to think. Like, having watched Nomadland, having seen Chloe Zhao win the award for Best Director and for Best Picture is awesome. Congratulations to her. That's fantastic. And now to see just the smallest teaser-ish glimpse as to what this movie is going to be. I don't know what to think. Are the Deviants going to be in it? Probably. And guess what? I only know who the Deviants are because the internet told me. I had to look it up. I doing my research about the Eternals. The Eternals, good guys. Deviants, bad guys. Thanos was a Deviant, apparently. I didn't know that until very recently when in doing a little bit of research. Thanos, we all know he was a bad guy. So I think, like, if I can put any amount of these pieces together, you have Thanos, Deviant, bad guy, goes out and commits one of the universe's most egregious travesties of all time. Because he got all 6 stones together and he snapped half of the universe out of existence. And it took a small band of ruffians from Earth to stand up against him and say, not today. And they had to time travel to save the day, right? So I have a feeling that the story is of the Eternals is essentially going to say, wow, that, like, we allowed this massive, egregious thing to happen on our watch, on our time. This was, like, we could have stepped in and prevented this, and we didn't. And look at what happened. And look at the people who did step in to fix the problem when we did nothing. I think they're going to hold themselves accountable at the beginning of the movie. I think they are going to reference this and say, wow, we messed up big time. We, the Eternals, kind of essentially gods, the Celestials created the Eternals. Celestials being like the first beings in existence. They created the Eternals, and the Eternals went off and created all kinds of other stuff and blah, blah, blah. And people who actually read the comics and know what they're talking about can correct me on things that I don't know what I'm talking about, right? But now I think the story of the movie is going to be the Eternals are stepping back like, wow, Thanos. And who knows, maybe some of the Eternals got wiped out of existence. Maybe they did. Who knows? Maybe they got blipped. And so now they got unblipped. Thanks, Tony Stark. Yeah, so I mean, we know very little about this movie. We know very little as to what is going to happen. It looks different. I expect fun, high-octane fun from my Marvel movies. This movie does not look high-octane fun. It looks interesting. And Kit Harington, we get our very first look as Kit Harington, not as the Black Knight, but as the character who is the Black Knight, if that makes any sense, if you know what I'm talking about. We just get a reaction shot of him, like, just turning around. That's it. That's the only shot that we get of the Black Knight. So it's he being the only human, the only mortal in this lineup. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I definitely need to see more. I'm interested. I'm not excited. I think that's kind of where I'm at. I'm interested in this movie, although I'm not excited in this movie. But I want to hear from you guys. Like, what are your thoughts of the Eternals? What do you think the story is going to be like? Are you excited? Did this trailer do its job and get you just a little bit excited for the movie? It didn't do a lot for me. And I know it's doing a lot for a lot of other people, and that's awesome, and that's great. But it didn't do a lot for me. But I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts and opinions about the Eternals trailer? What do you think the movie is going to be about? Do you think all the reports that have been coming out of people saying this is Marvel's best movie ever, this is going to be Marvel's Oscar win for Best Picture? Do you believe those rumors? Because based on this trailer, I don't know, maybe. I don't know, maybe. It could be. Prove me wrong. I am happy to be proven wrong. Or, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, jump down to the comment section below. You know what to do. You know what to do. All right. Oh, man. I think it's fair to say that we live in a world where we need good news. We need happy things. We need things to look forward to. We need to be uplifted. And there is no television show airing right now that gives us just those happy, good-natured vibes more than Ted Lasso. And very recently, one of the stars of Ted Lasso, Hannah Waddingham, said, quoting Jason Sudeikis, that season 2 of Ted Lasso is akin to The Empire Strikes Back. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, let's jump into the article here from Collider. She was sorry, I'm just walking around virtually on this. Waddingham was doing a kind of an interview thing, and she was asked by Collider if she could tease anything about season 2 of Ted Lasso, and she said, well, universally, I think Jason Sudeikis put it brilliantly. Jason has described season 2 as The Empire Strikes Back, and I'm inclined to agree with him. She goes on, we are so precious about this show that I'm not going to lie, I was nervous to see how, for everyone, not just my character, I was thinking, oh man, we've created such a honey. How do we not let the fans down or where they think it'll go or whatever? And the brilliant thing is, the writers are on their own journey and have done us all such a service, such a great service. Let's see. Lastly, she describes, I was worried that Rebecca, her character, I was worried that Rebecca would suddenly be this brand new person, that she has strength and happiness in her life. She realizes she doesn't have to be like that. She's been forgiven. She's suddenly this perky person. And I'm so glad that we find her with some moments of strength, but then the whole 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And I was really relieved that we see everyone's flaws and good things as well, because that's the human condition, isn't it? You're not suddenly better. And I think this is exactly what we want to hear from a show like this. What does it mean to have season 2 of Ted Lasso be compared to The Empire Strikes Back? The first thing that I think of is Empire Strikes Back ended on this cliffhanger of the Empire's winning. The good guys are not winning. Luke got his hand chopped off, and guess what? The bad guy's your father? What? So Empire kind of leaves us in this place of uncertainty, and that things might not actually turn out the way that we thought that they would. And I think using that as a very general, description, I kind of feel like season 1 of Ted Lasso left us with a little bit of uncertainty, right? It gave us some good feelings, but it also left us a little, oh, buddy, here, let me give you a hug, right? And it seems to me, based on these statements, just the pure comparison to Empire Strikes Back, it seems to me that, we may be wanting to give more than one character a huge hug by the end of this season, by the end of season 2. Additionally, it is very, even though we didn't get any specificity as to what she was talking about, it's kind of great to hear that, storytellers aren't just focused on fixing the problem. Problems are who we are. We're human beings. We're flawed. We're not perfect. And a lot of times we get things wrong. And even though sometimes we may have the best of intentions, let's be honest. Sometimes our selfish selves poke through. And based on her comments, it kind of feels like this is what she's talking about. We're all flawed human beings. We're all flawed characters. And as an actor, that's very rewarding. Like, we don't want... If anybody's been watching Mare of Easttown, first of all, if you have not seen Mare of Easttown on HBO Max, what a good show. What an absolutely phenomenal show. But all of those characters are flawed. They're deeply flawed. And they don't fix their flawedness. They allow their flaws to fester and be who they are. And that's what makes it interesting. And that, I think, is exactly what Hannah Waddingham is talking about. In that, let the characters be flawed. You don't need to fix their flawed natures. Just let them be who they are and then put them in these wacky scenarios. And speaking to Ted Lasso as a whole, we didn't understand. We didn't know what kind of a show this was going to be until we started watching it. It seems like a really I remember watching the trailer of it before we started watching the show. Kim and I, we started watching the trailer, and I was like, "Oh, this seems like an interestingly quirky show." But I don't know. An American football coach who goes to the UK and now coaches soccer. That just seems like a wacky premise. I don't know if I'm into it. We watched the first episode. Totally hooked. It's exactly what you want it to be, and it's just uplifting, and it's brilliant, and it's good, and it sounds like season 2 is going to carry on with that, and I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked to see it, and we don't have to wait too much longer. I mean, okay, 2 months. We have to wait 2 months It'll be out in 2 months, but I'm gonna in the interim, I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts of season 1 of Ted Lasso, and also what do you think season 2 is going to be like? What do you think Jason Sudeikis and, you know, by extension, Hannah Waddingham meant by comparing it to The Empire Strikes Back? Do you think that there's something a little bit more nefarious at work here? Do you think Rebecca's husband is going to come in and be the Darth Vader of the series? Who knows? I literally just came up with that theory on the fly. Let me know what your thoughts about season 2 of Ted Lasso are down in the comment section below. All right, guys, we have 2 more bits of things to talk about. That is, and our next one is this. Seth Rogen recently did an interview, and he was asked very plain and bluntly about cancel culture. And Seth Rogen had some really interesting things to say. There's kind of a lot to break down. Now, this particular article is on Joe Blow. I'm not going to read the entire article. It's quite long. But Seth Rogen was being interviewed on Good Morning Britain, and you know, they were asking him about you know, the things that he's done in the past, and he just kind of went off from there. Seth Rogen says, I think there are certain jokes that for sure have not aged well, but I think that's the nature of comedy. I think conceptually those movies are sound, and I think that there's a reason that they've lasted. Jokes, however, are not things that are necessarily built to last. Seth Rogen goes on a little bit more. He says, to me, when I see comedians complaining about this kind of thing, referring to cancel culture, he says, I don't understand what they're complaining about. If you've made a joke that's aged terribly, accept it. And if you don't think it's aged terribly, then say that. If you don't like that, then don't be a comedian anymore. I think that this part, if you don't like it, then don't be a comedian. I think that's a bit of an overstatement, but okay, whatever. He says, to me, it's not worth complaining about to the degree I see comedians complaining about. I was never a comedian that made... Sorry, guys. This is going to take a minute to get through and read. So again, just bear with me here. All right? Apologies. I was never a comedian that made jokes that were truly designed to target groups that were subjugated in some way. Have we done that without realizing it? Definitely. And those are things in our movies, and they're out there. And they're things that I am more than happy to say that have not aged well. But on my Twitter, I've never made a joke that's outwardly horrific in some way. And if you have, I would question, why did you do that? Again, I take a small issue with what he's saying here, but okay, let's take it for what it is. Saying terrible things is bad. So if you've said something terrible, then it's something you should confront in some way, shape, or form. I don't think that's cancel culture. I don't think that is cancel culture. That's you saying something terrible if that's what you've done. All right. So there's a lot to kind of talk and break down here. But on the whole, I agree with Seth Rogen. I'm not... This video is not about cancel culture, and this video is not about, you know, confronting cancel culture. The whole purpose of the segment of this video is owning your mistakes. There's an interesting thing about cancel culture in that if you've made a mistake, that's strike one and you're out. You're done. One and done, right? And I'm not a huge fan of that ideology. Do we all make mistakes? Yes. Do some people make mistakes, bigger mistakes than others? Undoubtedly. But we're not... we're literally just talking about Ted Lasso and how great it is to see flawed characters. We are flawed human beings. We all make extremely bad judgment calls sometimes. I myself have said some really egregious, terrible things on stage in front of a live audience, thinking, oh man, this is going to be hilarious. Guess what? It wasn't. It wasn't. I've owned up to that. And even more than owning up to it, I have learned from saying those awful, awful things on stage, thinking either A, oh, this is gonna be edgy. I'm like one of those, like, I'm an edgy comedian. But then I've also learned that, or rather, let me go back. The other reason for saying it is like, oh, I'm gonna push the boundaries, or oh, I'm totally gonna get away. Oh, this is gonna be amazing. Oh, it's the context. Oh, I've created. No. Some things don't work. Some things just should not be said. Sometimes we need to test the boundary, because comedy is about pushing boundaries. Comedy, not always, but oftentimes, is about making people feel uncomfortable. And when you make people feel uncomfortable, you challenge what they know. You challenge what they believe in. And two things are going to happen. I've said this for a long time, not on this show, but in like my classes that I teach. You're going to do two things. One, you're going to get people to reevaluate what they know and believe to be true. Or two, you're going to help them solidify what they already believe, right? And that's just depending on how, based on their own personal experience and how they receive the joke or message or whatever, that's how they're going to respond, right? So going back to Seth Rogen, there are a couple of things in this article that he points out. In this top paragraph, he says, I don't understand what they're complaining about. If you've made an age, let's see, if they've aged terribly, and if you don't like it, don't be a comedian anymore. That's, I don't know. I feel like that's a bit of a reach. I feel like that if you don't like it, then just leave. That, I don't know if that's an answer. That seems like a very generalistic answer. Well, if you don't like it, if you can't take the heat, just leave the kitchen, kind of thing. Well, no, I mean, like, we need to learn from our mistakes, right? We need to understand that we did something wrong, and then progress on there. And like, I don't know. I think that's a bit unfair to say. The other thing is that he says in this article. It's in the second paragraph. On my Twitter, I've never made a joke that's horrific. And if you have, I would question, why did you do that? Okay. Let's talk about the James Gunn for a second. Because James Gunn was one of those filmmakers and storytellers and comedians that tried to use his edgy nature of like, oh, this is who I'm going to be, and oh, I'm going to say like these really radical things and get away with it because that's the image that I'm trying to put. That's why people say that kind of stuff. And guess what? In James Gunn's case, he needed to go through the refiner's fire and realize maybe this isn't okay to say. And he's since apologized for the things that he's put out on Twitter, thinking he's trying to be edgy and new age and whatever. But I think at the end of the day, the job of a storyteller, the job of a comedian specifically, is to make people feel happy, make people laugh, right? Anyway, those are just my thoughts. And those are Seth Rogen's comments about cancel culture. When asked about cancel culture, that's what Seth Rogen had to say. I'm sure this discussion is bigger than any one of us. There's so many thoughts and so many opinions to be had about cancel culture and specifically about Seth Rogen's comments. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about what Seth Rogen had to say about cancel culture, about owning your mistakes? And I even take that to the next level and say, learn from your mistakes, grow, because we're all going to make them. We are all going to offend people. It's just going to, that's human nature. We are going to offend each other. But I think the trick is offending each other, recognizing that we offended someone, and hopefully making the steps necessary to overcome that or to correct it or to make amends in that thing. And then just never do it again. Learn from the mistake and then move on, right? And in that way, cancel culture won't dictate who we're going to be or where we're going to be, right? It's all about forgiveness within ourselves. going outward. Anyway, those are just my thoughts, but I want to hear what your thoughts are. Maybe you guys have more opinions on the matter. Maybe there's so much more that I'm not talking about in this particular topic. Let me know down in the comment section below. All right, you guys, we have one last bit of movie news to cover, and this kind of came out of, well, how do I say came out of nowhere? We know that there's been a Willy Wonka movie, like an origin story movie happening about, like, where did Willy Wonka come from, and how did he start the chocolate factory, and, you know, all that stuff. Well, hey, now we have an actor to play Willy Wonka, Timothée Chalamet, which knee-jerk reaction seems weird. It seems a little like, hang on a second, what? But it also very oddly, very strangely kind of makes sense too, right? If you look at Timothée Chalamet's acting career, he's kind of like an up and coming Leonardo DiCaprio, right? He's a very serious actor. I mean, like, he plays around with his roles and has a little bit of fun, but, you know, he comes across as a very serious actor. And there's something about the role of Willy Wonka that doesn't initially strike us as, like, a serious role. But think about it for a second. I think it's fair to say that nobody wants to see an origin story of the Johnny Depp Tim Burton version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but if we see more of an origin story of how the Gene Wilder version came to fruition, where did that Willy Wonka come from? How did he get to be weird and bizarre and, like, quirky, right? Maybe I don't know. There's so many possibilities here. Again, on the outside, this seems like a very odd choice. But it also is a choice that oddly kind of makes sense to me. Coming hot off the heels of Dune, and Dune hasn't even come out in theaters yet. I think Dune promises to be, maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, Denis Villeneuve's films have not performed all that well in the box office, even though he's an incredible filmmaker. He's an absolutely brilliant filmmaker. Every film he makes is just 2 thumbs up, right? But yeah, you know, Timothée Chalamet coming off of Dune, being cast, you know, call me by your name. He was in Little Women. He was in Dune. So many other films. You know, he's like an actor's actor. You know, I don't know. It just seems like an odd choice, but also a strangely fitting choice for this particular kind of role. There's not a ton of other details to be brought up. I mean, if we jump into this article from Joe Blow, I mean, it just kind of gives us the basic idea, you know. Well, I must admit, you know, coming from Joe Blow, well, I must admit, I snickered when I heard Timothée Chalamet was cast. It makes sense. When the movie was announced a few months ago, I remember telling loads of people, yeah, I bet they'll cast Chalamet. Turns out that he's right. Snickering aside, whoever wrote this article, who is this? Chris Bumbray. Chris says, snickering aside, I like Chalamet. Call Me by Your Name was great. He was superb in a 2-little scene Netflix movie called The King. No doubt he'll be awesome in Dune. So you know what? If he wants to sing and dance as Willy Wonka, he's earned the right. Besides, Paul King made a classic with Paddington 2, so why not? Yeah. The director from Paddington 2 is directing Willy Wonka as well. So I don't know. There's a lot to unpack here. There's not a lot of news other than the fact of, like, hey, Timothée Chalamet is going to play Willy Wonka. I don't know. I think this is going to work, but I want to hear what your thoughts are. Do you have a different take on it? Or maybe you're just not feeling it. Maybe you think they should just leave it all alone. I want to hear what your thoughts are. Jump on down to the comment section below. All right, you guys, we have reached that portion of the show where we're going to jump in and take your live comments. But before we do, I I've been talking for about an hour straight here. I'm going to rest my vocal cords just for a second. I've come up with a fun new little graphic. I'll be back in about 3 minutes. We're going to jump right into the comments section. And you guys have been firing in a ton of comments and questions all show long. So we're going to jump in and take that in exactly 3 minutes and 13 seconds when I return.
It's alive! It's alive!
All right, you guys, we are back. Thank you so much for that break, much needed break, so I could just kind of rest my vocal cords. And I also realized, with having new graphics, sometimes the order in which I play them, you got a really awkward shot of me just kind of staring at the computer, not saying anything with my microphone on mute. Looking at some of the questions that have come in. So apologies for that, but you know, hey, mistakes. Like I said, mistakes are gonna happen. We're all human individuals, but yeah, let's jump into these live comments. And the majority of our comments today come from the Nerd Zone. First comment from Nerd Zone says, "Hey man, got the Zack Snyder's Justice League on DVD. Woohoo!" In all caps, by the way. It should not go unnoticed that you wrote that in all caps. So right on, you Nerd Zone. I just got it. I just got it just on DVD because I have my own Sky, and my granddad only has DVD player, not a Blu-ray player, and we really want to watch it together. Yeah, that's really special, man. That's really special that you guys are able to kind of form that bond. I believe on last week's show you had mentioned that there's like this dynamic between you, your dad, and your granddad, and kind of like things that were once old now become new again, like that kind of concept. So the opportunity for you and your granddad to sit down and enjoy Zack Snyder's Justice League together, those are memories. I mean, yeah, it's fun to be like, hey, I want you to sit down and watch this movie with me. Like, that's cool, but even deeper than that, like, these are memories. These are opportunities and moments that are forged between family members, and like, who cares if it's on DVD? Like, in the long run, it's not going to matter if it's on DVD or VHS. Like, I would love to see Zack Snyder's Justice League on VHS. I think that would be cool. But neither here nor there. Dude, that's awesome. Congratulations to you, man. You go on to say, we really want to watch it together, ... in his caravan. Where are you caravanning to? Are you guys, like, is this a road trip? Are you guys, like, going up and down, like, the English coast from London all the way up to Scotland? Because if you did and you just watched Zack Snyder's Justice League the whole way, that would be brilliant. That would be brilliant. Nerdzone says, I don't care if the reunion is bad, referring to the Friends reunion. As long as the original cast got to have fun and have a good time. I think that's what we're all looking for, right? I personally wanted, when I watched the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion, I wanted it to be longer, and it really looked like they were enjoying each other's company, right? And I am kind of glad that the Friends reunion is getting 2 hours as opposed to just one. We're going to have more moments, more memories, more things to share, and more of them, as you point out, just getting together and having fun. Like, a lot of times it's really fun and interesting to watch people get together like that. Nerdzone says, Sky will also be doing the Friends reunion like Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's great. Like, and I figured, like, a lot of these outlets and streaming services around the world are going to offer this kind of stuff. Yes, it's an HBO Max original, blah, 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 whatever. But outside of the United States, if you don't have HBO Max available in your country, how are you going to see it? So yeah, I'm really pleased to hear that they figured this out. And that just goes to show even more how much Warner Brothers has been dragging their feet when it comes to, like, putting out Zack Snyder's Justice League, or, you know, putting it for pre-sale, and, you know, this and that, because it's still not available in the United States. You know, people can order it on Blu-ray. One of the great things about Blu-ray is that it's multi-region. It's not, you know, region-specific. But, you know, my Superman collection. I have a whole Superman collection on Blu-ray that I got from the UK, and let's be honest, it's actually kind of better than the American release. Nerdzone says Sky will also be doing the Friends. Okay, yeah. Eternals doesn't look like my cup of tea. Is there an American version for not my cup of tea? Nope. We use that same exact expression. Not my cup of tea, which I believe we stole it from you guys. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to say it's not my cup of tea per se. I'm still interested by this because Marvel, Kevin Feige, Chloe Zhao, and also I'm kind of like comic book property. Comic book properties almost always interest me, right? Comic book properties almost always interest me, so I'm interested by this thing. The trailer didn't do a lot to get me excited for it. Here's it's an unfair comparison to make. And I recognize that it's a completely unfair comparison to make between the very first Eternals teaser trailer and the very first Guardians of the Galaxy teaser trailer. I remember in Guardians of the Galaxy teaser trailer, it started with that ooga chaka, ooga ooga chaka, na na na, hooked on a feeling, bum bum bum. It started with that. And I was like, that's it. I'm in. I get it. Like, the Eternals movie is not that kind of feeling. It's not hooked on that kind of feeling, right? It's not that kind of movie. But I don't know. Maybe they're marketing this film to a non-comic book audience. Maybe they're trying to market this film to an audience that, just doesn't care about comic book movies. Because the comic book people will show up. We are going to watch it. We're going to do it. But yeah, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We definitely need to see more. I definitely need to see more. But yes, I'm right there with you, Nerd Zone. For right now, it's not my cup of tea. Where'd we go? Nerdzone says also rumored No Way Home trailer and photos of Uncharted film. So we already had our first set photo, like our first official look of Tom Holland as Nathan Drake and Mark Wahlberg I can't remember his name. I never played the video game Uncharted. It's never I'm not a video game person. But we had our first official look here. Let me see if I can look this up real quick. Let's see. Tom Holland Uncharted. Bear with me. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, I'm scrolling through these photos. It's hold on. Tom Holland. Let's go Mark Wahlberg. Where's this photo at? This should be like the first thing popping up because I've seen it all over the place. Sully, that's his name. Mark Wahlberg's playing the character of Sully. Oh man, hold on. Sorry, you guys. Mark Wahlberg. Hold on. Well, apologies. It's not. Oh, is this it? There we go. Okay. All right. Sorry, that took me a minute to find, but okay, here we go. So this is the first official look that we have of Mark Wahlberg playing Sully and Tom Holland playing Nathan Drake. Again, from my understanding of this property, Uncharted is it's kind of like a Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones kind of feel to it. They cast them very young. which I mean I'm kind of fine with, because as a lot of people are commenting, it's in the hopes that, you know, we get more of these movies and more stories, so these actors can play these characters for many years to come and eventually grow into the roles that we kind of know them to look like and feel like, and all that stuff. So, but yeah, so Nerd Zone, when you say that there's a rumored set photos of Uncharted, like that's already happened. But in terms of No Way Home, for a trailer to come out, a teaser trailer. So let's see. So that movie comes out in what, December? So we're still 7 months away. We're still about 7 months away from the movie. If they do a teaser, I'm gonna guess, because we just got our first teaser. Let's use my mind is blanking. The Eternals. If we use the Eternals as a template, so they dropped their first teaser 6 months out, which might still be a bit much. I feel like 4 months is a little bit more appropriate to start building up your fan base and saying, hey, this thing's coming. But okay, 6 months out, we get. Let's see, June, July, August, September, October, November. Yeah, so 6 months out. So I'm going to say in about another month, maybe 2 months. For Spider-Man, it's a bigger property. I'm going to say that they're going to start advertising in about a month. I'm going to say we're going to get a trailer in about a month. But who knows? Maybe I am way off the mark. Who knows, you guys? All right. And now you're saying No Way Home trailer on Friday. Apparently, don't trust me though. I mean, but who knows? Maybe. I mean, look at Force Awakens. We got our first teaser trailer to The Force Awakens 1 year in advance. That is way too much time. So here's the problem with advertising your movie or film too far in advance, because you lose momentum. Right? You lose momentum. You think, hey, let's start hyping up the crowd. But if you go a year in advance, or even let's just say 7 months in advance, if we're going to get a No Way Home trailer on Friday, first of all, that would be awesome. But that just seems way too soon. It seems way too soon. That's 7 months in advance. So by the time that, we hit 4 months out from the movie, we've still had 3 months to sit with this teaser trailer. Okay, we had yeah. It's the same one, because you always get people on YouTube who kind of like put out a fan trailer, or they do their thing, or it's the official, it's a new, and they recut the trailer, whatever. It's the same one that I've seen before. It's the same one that I've seen before, and so you lose momentum. You really should start marketing your film about 4 months away. So you start with a little tease, and then you get a full trailer, and then you get your second trailer, and you're like, by the time the second trailer comes out, second official trailer, you're like amped up. You're like, yes. And then you start seeing water bottles and keychains and t-shirts and all this merch kind of like surrounding. You go to McDonald's and there's the Spider-Man game that you pull off on your French fries, and all this brand integration and all that stuff, and it's fun and exciting, and it drives the momentum of the film. But if you do it too early, like, you're gonna lose momentum. So I don't know, but then maybe they will. I don't know. I'm just some schmuck on the internet talking about his thoughts and opinions. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe it will come out on Friday. Maybe you've got more credible information than I do. I'm going to have to eat my hat. There's an expression people don't use anymore. I'm going to have to eat my hat if this trailer drops on Friday, which if it does, cool. 2 thumbs up. I'm here for it. I just think it's too early. I just think it's way too early. Nerdzone says, do you know what my favorite show this year is? Cobra Kai. Such fun service. And as they made the younger generation fans of the Karate Kid films, how in the world did this happen? And I'm here for it. 2 thumbs up. I love Cobra Kai, man. Kim and I have been watching, we binge Cobra Kai when it comes out. We are all about Cobra Kai. It is such a ridiculously fun show. It's so campy. It's so cheesy. The acting is egregious. The lines of dialogue are terrible. Editing, cinematography, it's fine. Who cares? Whatever. Like these storylines and these premises, and this is so contrived. But I am so here for it. Somehow, the creators of Cobra Kai were able to. Side note: I definitely want to join Eagle Fang. I'm just putting it out there. I want to join Eagle Fang. Somehow the creators were able to create this ultra campy, cheesy thing that has heart and reality to it, and actually teaches us life lessons about blah 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 whatever. And I'm here for it. I love it. And yeah, to get a younger generation interested in the Karate Kid films, it's genius. It's so fun. Nerdzone says, where did we go? By the way, I'm talking about watching, I'm thinking about watching The Walking Dead as I'm playing the VR game right now. Non-spoiler review, please. Okay, yeah, I think I can do that. A non-spoiler review of The Walking Dead. I read the comic up through issue... Oh, man. I want to say 110. Something like that. Issue 100. If anybody has watched The Walking Dead, and if anybody's read The Walking Dead, you know that issue 100 is a game changer. I have thoughts and feelings about issue 100 that correlates with the television show. It was okay for the comic. I feel the television show should have taken a different direction. And of course, I'm speaking in generalities. I'm not going to speak in specifics because you haven't seen it yet. I stopped watching The Walking Dead right around the time that the show caught up to where I was at in the comic, because it just... There's a storyline that involves a baseball bat, and that's all the more I'm going to say about it. I started watching shortly after that because the show kind of became a little repetitive, and I wanted something fresh and new, and they weren't giving you anything fresh and new. I liked how the show deviated from the comic, because the comic, you knew what to expect. There were events happening in the show that happened the same way in the comic, but to different characters and in different scenarios. And it was, I'm just using nebulous words and phrases. I'm not giving anything away, but there's a storyline about cannibals that was so interesting in the comic, and the way that they adapted it for the show was very, very different. It was very, very different. But I mean, that's what I mean when I say that, the way the television show correlates to the comic, it honors the comic, but it does its own thing, and it surprises you. So even if you have read the comic, and you're like, oh, this is gonna happen to this character, and oh, this character is gonna die. Guess what? Not necessarily. So when I talk about issue 100, and there was a very specific event that happened in issue 100, if you've read the comic, if you know what I'm talking about, I feel like that event should have gone down to a different character in the show. And it would have allowed the show to have a very different dynamic that I think the show needed. But whatever. So yeah, I mean, I can do. I haven't watched the show for a while, but Nerdzone, yeah, I can definitely do a review of Walking Dead just for the seasons that I've seen. Because I think there were an additional 3 seasons that I haven't watched before it ended. But anyway, I'll see what I can do for you. Nerdzone says, I didn't expect the creator of Sausage Party, Superbad, and The Interview would say this. Yes. So again, going back to the comments of Seth Rogen talking about cancel culture, and that instead of canceling certain things and properties and IPs and or people, that people need to take accountability for their own actions. People need to take accountability for the things that they've said, and they need to. It is incumbent upon that individual that if they have said or done something that is no longer acceptable in our day and age, that they take ownership of that. I am in full support of this. As I've said before on the show to multiple friends and in various online forums, I have said and done horrible things on stage as a comedian. As an improviser, sometimes you're in the moment and you think, oh, this is exactly what my character should say and do right now. And the split second before it comes out of your mouth, you have this moment of clarity to think, oh, this is hilarious. If I say this thing, it's going to kill. And guess what? Sometimes it doesn't. Not only does it not kill, you've actually just killed yourself. You have sucked the energy out of the room. And it is important for those of us who have said these egregious things on stage, in public forums, on Twitter, in movies, what have you, to take accountability for it. For writers to put some of this stuff in movies thinking, oh, this is going to be awesome. And maybe it is for the time, but some things just don't age well. And that's okay. But you still need to take accountability and ownership for it and say, yeah, I messed up. We thought this was a good idea at the time. Turns out it wasn't. I pledge to do better. We need to do better. We will do better. I will learn from my mistakes. If something like this happens in the future, please, collectively, bring it to my attention. And hopefully we can work out a solution, and I will grow and become a better human being because of this stuff. And we live in a culture where people don't want to take accountability for their own actions. And B, if you tell someone that they've done something wrong, it has the adverse effect. People get extremely defensive. And also C, we also live in a culture where we shout at the top of our lungs that people need to change, but then we don't allow them to change. And this is a big problem of mine when it comes to cancel culture, is that we say, change, repent. But then we don't either give the person opportunity to repent and make changes, or if they have, we won't accept it because they did that horrible, awful, egregious thing that one time, or 2 times, whatever the case may be. If people have changed their ways, if people have repented of their thing, we live in a culture where people don't offer forgiveness, and I think that's unfortunate. Anyway, Nerd Zone goes on to say, also, wow, I'm surprised people like to watch Good Morning Britain after Piers Morgan left. I'm not all that familiar with Good Morning Britain. When I say I'm not all that familiar with it, I'm not familiar with it. I know Piers Morgan. I know Piers Morgan is a pretty conservative voice in Britain. I wasn't aware that he was on the show. I wasn't aware that he left the show. So I'm not. I don't know. I have no comment on that. Nerd Zone says, geez, I'm changing your phraseology. If there's anything that you've learned about me on this show, it's that there's certain words that I don't like to use on the interwebs. Geez, how many people are gonna stop this from happening after canceling Roald Dahl? I mean, I like how kids are calling him racist, and he did admit that he was anti-Semitic. Yeah. I I don't know. That's a deep one. Again, I don't know. I mean, same thing with Disney. Walt Disney. Walt Disney was very anti-Semitic, and he was very open about it. I think. And also look at what can I think of her name? Harry Potter lady. J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling has been very vocal in her viewpoints on being transphobic, and that has not gone over very well for her. I do feel like there are certain properties and certain things that grow and become bigger than their creator. Disney, the Disney name, the Disney properties are bigger than Walt Disney himself. The properties of Roald Dahl become bigger and, dare I say, more influential than Roald Dahl was himself. Harry Potter has taken on a bigger culture. Like, it means more to people than the creator herself. So sometimes people create things that are bigger than the creators themselves, that are bigger than they are. And so, I don't know. I kind of feel like we all need to suss this out for ourselves and kind of like feel how, this is going to go and whatever. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that, well, Roald Dahl was a racist, so we can't support any of stuff that, well, I mean, look at, shoot, again, another HBO Max thing, Lovecraft Country. H.P. Lovecraft was a horrendous racist. But that show, while I still take issues with the storytelling aspect of that show and character development of that show, they were able to take the concept of H.P. Lovecraft's racism and incorporate it into the show, and I think that was a brilliant move. It was a brilliant commentary, to call out racism and turn a negative into a positive. That's exactly what it was. They turned a negative into a positive, and I think that was genius. I think that was completely brilliant, and I love that they were doing that. Moving on. Nerd Zone says, your camera is on during the break. LOL. I know. I totally called myself out for that. It was the first time that I'm incorporating this break into the show, and technology. Still figuring it out, right? But hey, we made a mistake, and off we go. Just watching the Star Wars original trilogy with my granddad when lockdown was easing. Just watching the Star Wars original trilogy with my granddad when lockdown was easy was a joy. Sorry, it's the phraseology that's hitching me up here. So you watched the original Star Wars trilogy with your granddad while you guys were on lockdown. It was a joy. That's essentially what I'm taking away from it. I'm curious, Nerd Zone, had you seen the original Star Wars trilogy before, or was that your first time experiencing it? Because if that was your first time, welcome to the fan club, buddy. The first Star Wars movie I ever remember watching was Return of the Jedi. I must have been, I think I was like 7. I want to say it was like 6 or 7 years old, probably 7 years old when I saw the first Return of the Jedi for the first time. And I was captive. Like, I loved the feeling of it. I loved the adventure of it. Sci-fi is one of those things that's never interested me, but I contend that Star Wars is not a sci-fi genre. I loved the adventure of it. I loved the characters and the gritty feeling of it. It felt very Indiana Jones to me, and I loved Indiana Jones. Which, of course, it should. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. Like, of course, why wouldn't it feel that way? I loved it. Absolutely Loved it. And yeah, and Star Wars has permeated everything of who I am today. Nerdzone says, so my dad lives in a static caravan, which is basically a mini house, and my granddad owns one. Oh, dude, that's awesome. That's great. That's so cool. Yeah. I like, there's this certain concept of like small living now that's very popular, and it's very minimalistic, and I think that's I would love to do it, but it also would mean like giving up a little bit of space. But I guess one could contend that living in a Manhattan apartment is very similar to small house living. So that's really cool. Congrats for both, or congrats, kudos. Maybe, I don't know. That's just, like, what a great intimate way to kind of like celebrate each other's lives and to be around each other. Nerdzone says, and statics can't move. It stays at the site. So I think in the States, oh shoot, what do we call it? Like the modular homes? Fun fact, I used to work in a modular home factory, which it sounds like you're describing something a little bit different than a modular home, but yeah, I used to work in a modular home factory where I think it was like 7 stations or 8 stations, something like that, and at each station there was a different stage of development for a modular home. So they had like the outline, the basis of it. It was really cool, actually. I really enjoyed working there because it was really interesting to see the process of how these modular homes got built. So stage 1, they build the frame, right? They put the flooring in, put like maybe like the ceiling, the roof a little bit, but put like, woo, hit my glasses. Yeah, get the frame. Stage 2, they start to put up maybe like the walls, or like maybe put up a little bit of insulation or whatever. And stage 3, they put in the wiring. Stage 4, they put in this. Stage 5, they put in that. And so it was really cool to see like how a modular home got built from stage to stage to stage. And at all times, there was always at each of the 8 different stages, there was always a new house being built. So when number 8 got taken off the line, everything moved down one station, and then they started a brand new house at stage 1. It was just really cool to see. So my job is that I would go in between all of these stations, and if there was like a little piece of fiberglass that they couldn't fit in the walls, the workers would like cut where it didn't fit and then throw it out the window and fall on the floor. So my job is I would go in between all of these different modular homes, and it was all indoors. It was this huge factory. It was all indoors, and I would walk up and down the aisles in between these various modular homes and be like, oh, here's a piece of fiberglass. Boop. Go walk over and put it back in the fiberglass bin so that they can reuse it on the next modular home. It was really cool. Or like, oh, here's a whole bunch of nails that we didn't need for this particular home. So great, pick up the nails and put them back in the nail bin, or whatever. It was really cool. It was really fun. I kind of enjoyed it. It was an easy job, but it was an interesting job. So anyway, Nerdzone, thank you so much for giving us tons of stuff to talk about. Thanks for being here. Thanks for letting the conversation live and thrive, and thank you for bearing with me through my technical weirdness as I creating new graphics and whatever. I will learn for next time. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of the conversation. Hope to see you next week when we do next week's live show. You guys, we live in a weird, crazy world where everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, and sometimes those thoughts and opinions clash. So if you have an opportunity to infuse a little bit of kindness into the world, if you have an opportunity to speak kind words to each other, please, I implore you, take those opportunities. As always, in the words of the immortal Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other. I will see you guys next week.